Welcome to the Hotel California, or should I say, the White Lotus. Join me today in examining White Lotus, the hottest new series from HBO. I might have skipped this one because it looked kind of like a soap opera, but my TiVo convinced me to give it a chance, and boy is it a ride. I'm also going to include a couple of similar shows to watch next if you've already seen it. If you didn't, well, you know how Seinfeld is a show about nothing and has middle-class characters mostly sitting around talking? That's the same shtick in The White Lotus with even less action. This 6-part series from HBO is a character study with not a lot of plot to complete it. It follows a series of upper-class white people just complaining in a 5-star resort and juxtaposes their plight with the employees who have to make sure they're happy. It sounds sickening, I know, but somehow this premise works. The story is as hollow as the rich people who complain they didn't get the pineapple suite and have to suffer sitting in some other luxurious suite, which only has access to 3 pools and no private pool of its own. Please don't barf, bear with me here. Considering the drought of good content on streaming apps during the summer, The White Lotus is a fantastic way to spend the night. I was coming out of a Matrix marathon because the movies are currently streaming for free on Pluto TV via TiVo Plus, but I still spent 6 hours to see this series back to back. The first episode starts off strong. You see a rich dude waiting in the airport where a couple strikes up an awkward conversation with him. Through it, we find out that there's a body supposed to be loaded onto the plane, and that raises questions about a murder or other shenanigans. That's a scene from the very end of the series, and then you're hurtled back into the beginning with guests arriving at a Hawaiian resort. Jennifer Coolidge, who you might know as Stifler's mom, here plays a lonely alcoholic who tries to gather up the courage to throw her mother's ashes into the sea. Her beginning of a friendship with Belinda, the spa manager, is one of the nicest and warmest subplots in this series, where most characters could be described as annoying. Then you have Armand, the hotel manager who is struggling to stay sober despite having only obnoxious, entitled guests. Then there's an upper-class family where the woman is a high-powered CEO in charge of a major search engine. She definitely feels modeled after Marissa Mayer, especially since she's blonde and spouts some pretty eyebrow-raising feminist ideas.
Women have a lot to navigate, and I just think it's really important to support women when I can.
With her are her husband, her 2 teens, and the best friend of her daughter. That best friend, Paula, is also a fascinating POC character. She serves as a lightning rod for all kinds of discussion of race, gender, and class, which take on a cringe tone. Considering she's on a vacation paid by her white friend, you can't help but sympathize with her when she's forced to keep her mouth shut and not rock the boat. But as time goes on, you realize Paula is not a very sympathetic character either. The White Lotus manages to subvert expectations in a way rarely seen on shows nowadays, and packs quite a few heavy punches by the end. For that, I give it 10 out of 10. And that music, oh god, the music. When was the last time you watched a TV show purely for the soundtrack? The White Lotus has a tribal drum-heavy score that manages to raise the hairs on your back whenever 2 characters meet. Considering these characters are just people in a resort mainly talking and not doing much else, the music somehow both makes every longer scene heavy with implication and absolutely hilarious. As someone on Reddit put it, the show could be a real-time recording of a white lotus growing from seed to flower, and I'd still watch it as long as it had that score going on in the background. So if you finish The White Lotus and want something similar to keep you glued to the screen, I got you. I went through all my TiVo playlists and put together this list. Any one of these series are totally binge-worthy. I'm gonna start off with a movie since it's a short and sweet way to get more like White Lotus. If you didn't already, stream Knives Out. This movie came out a couple of years ago and, despite having the greatest cast I've seen short of a Marvel flick, somehow flew under the radar for most people. Knives Out is great if you love mysteries like Agatha Christie's.
The family had gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it, by the way?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
It has the same effed up family dynamics like White Lotus, but a fantastic whodunit plot that's going to keep you guessing until the very end. If you didn't fall in love with Ana de Armas in Blade Runner 2049, I bet she'll steal your heart here. But I know, a movie is short and over much too soon. So here are some shows to keep you going with the White Lotus vibe. The most similar one is definitely Enlightened from 2011, which makes sense considering it's written by the same man, Mike White. Enlightened has a thumbnail that just forces your hand to click. Laura Dern sneering with mascara running down her face. The IMDb synopsis is also incredibly compelling. A self-destructive woman who has a spiritual awakening tries to now live an enlightened life, creating havoc at home and work.
This says if I meditate and look upon every person as having once been my mother, my heart will soften.
This series is hilarious, dark, and, best of all, 3 times as long as The White Lotus. All in all, there's 18 episodes of Laura Dern at her very best. For a newer show that examines race, class, and all that, give The Chair a stream. This show just came out on Netflix and the poster just made me start streaming. It's Sandra Oh as an academic. Pardon me, as a in charge of you That poster made me go in expecting a hilarious and straightforward comedy, but I was surprised at how biting it actually is. Sandra Oh, as the first woman of color to become chair of an English department, offers a fantastic view into the difficulty of leadership and a really biting insight into how academia actually works. And just like White Lotus, all the characters are deeply flawed and a joy to watch. Then there's the series called Little Fires Everywhere, which is eerily similar to Big Little Lies in some aspects. You also have Reese Witherspoon here as a rich woman living in a rich city who takes under her wing a newcomer and tries to help her adjust to living in the rich city land. However, Little Fires Everywhere is not really a murder-driven plot. Instead, it's a cynical, character-driven piece that examines how some rich people cope with their privilege by helping others, but in a selfish way. In this series, you have Reese Witherspoon taking Kerry Washington under her wing. She finds her a place to rent and gives her a job, but that job is being a maid for Reese. And since I mentioned Big Little Lies, there's another fresh series that's kinda like it and a lot like White Lotus. It's made by BLL producer David E. Kelly, who also gave us stuff like Ally McBeal and Boston Legal. Called 9 Perfect Strangers, its main pitch sounds exactly like the one for White Lotus. Follow around 9 people who check into a fancy resort and start discovering secrets about themselves and the head of the resort. Tell me that's a coincidence. Like, White Lotus shows up with this premise on HBO in early August, then just a few weeks later, Hulu comes up with almost the exact same thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I've been waiting to see Nicole Kidman again since Big Little Lies, and Michael Shannon is always a treat. I'm currently on the 2nd episode, so I can't say much about it yet, but I'm definitely hooked. And lastly, I have an older recommendation that's a lot less dramatic. Instead, it's pure hilarity and twists and turns. If you love the concept of following a lot of characters around in a single location and seeing how relationships are created and evolve, check out Mixology. This is a fantastic series with 13 episodes, all of them chronicling a single night in a bar. 10 single people hit the bar in the hopes of finding a hookup or eternal love, and Mixology spins them right on their heads. Considering how long it's been since most of us actually hit a bar in the hopes of talking to strangers, Mixology is a fantastic blast from the past, and the characters are a lot more relatable than the ones in White Lotus.
Sex and the City changed the game, my friend.
Yep, they're all Mirandas.
No, Miranda was the workaholic. Samantha was the slutty one.
No, Dorothy was the workaholic one.
Nope, there was no Dorothy, dude.
I'm sorry, there was a Miranda, Dorothy, Rachel, and Phoebe.
What about you? Have you seen this series yet? What do you think about it? Of course, if you know a similar show, please leave a comment below and help others see more stuff like this. And don't forget to like and subscribe, it keeps the lights on. Thanks and catch you later.